Okay, hello everyone. Today is November 30, and this is the SIG cluster lifecycle office hour meeting. And there is a document agenda. Let me put the link in the chat. Here it is. If you don't have access to this document, you have to join the SIG cluster lifecycle mailing list. And before starting, this meeting goes under the Kubernetes Code of Conduct, the CNCF Code of Conduct rules. So please be nice with each other. And let's go to today's agenda. So first of all, new meeting participant, Alex. Alex, are you here?
That's, well, if you're looking at me, I'm not that Alex. That has to be a different Alex.
Yeah.
I think this is the Alex from Red Hat, but I mean the TLDR here is like we just need a new repo for the cluster API operator work. So if we all agree like we can do that, we should just give her a +1 and let them create one through the usual process.
It's not a new subproject, right? It just comes, it's another repo under the cluster API sub-project. So yeah, I don't think it even needs a lot of consensus, but yes, if anyone objects, then that will be interesting.
I'm +1. I already passed to Alex a set of links how to open the issue and all the guidelines. So I think, yeah, I'm +1. So I will reach back to Alex and make sure that he knows what are the next steps. So I don't. If there are no objections, I just add to the note that this is a +1, and I will add later all the links and ask Alex to move on. So if there are no other topics, and there are no other topics in agenda, so I have two. We discussed briefly last week. First one is that we have to start thinking to SIG project talks for the next KubeCon. Make sure that this time we have a SIG talk and eventually a project talk, possibly more than one. And second topic is in the last SIG chair meeting, it was announced that it is starting the collection of feedback from the SIG in order to compile the usual annual status report. So last week we agreed that we will send the questionnaire that I've proposed to this meeting a few weeks ago to every sub-project. So I think that if there are no objections, I will send an email asking to each sub-project to pick up one person responsible to answer to the questionnaire for the entire sub-project, and let's see how many feedback we got. Vince, Justin, opinions?
That sounds good to me. Was there anything? Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Likewise.
Okay, so if there are no other questions, I think that we can move to project updates if someone wants to give us a project update.
I can quickly chime in. So for, I don't know if it counts as a project update, but on the keyword provider side, we had our first initial meeting with the community. So we haven't set up bi-weekly meetings for keyword provider yet, but we had a kickoff this morning and it's been discussed. Actually, initially we go on with a weekly meeting for it. Yeah, in a longer run, I guess maybe we're looking for some guidelines as far as setting up bi-weekly meeting. Do we need to get a buy-in from the community in this group, or is it just up to us to set it up and add it to the community agenda? And the other issue that came up is, so now that we are hooking up the CI infrastructure for keyword provider, we are looking for infrastructure to actually run tests on. There are some ideas being bounced around, but in a long run, I think we are looking for either for funding or credits in order to keep the infrastructure running that will be used for CI. We have some workarounds in mind for the short term, but I think we'll need to figure out a long-term solution for CI for us. Yeah, just some quick updates on the keyword provider side.
Sorry, just on that note, what is the requirement? Like, do you need like nested virtualization, or like what is? Can you make do without it and like lower performance? What is the sort of requirement there?
So preferably, like we probably will need, we will have to leverage on the nested virtualizations, and we have to have some like a bare metal instance for us to make use of, like, because the current CI that the Red Hat that the KubeVirt community use is really based on the bare metal. Like they have like 3 or 5 bare metal instances that to hold their CI systems, and based on our initial discussion with them, that because this is the bootstrap stage for the project, like we can share their infrastructures. However, like we should be working together to looking for the long term that either they can get more credits or get more funded on their infrastructure to add more nodes, or we can have our like for the keyword provider project, we should have our dedicated infrastructures for the CI. So that's something that we are looking for. We're looking for help from the community.
That makes sense. I mean, I believe AWS does have bare metal instances, so you could do that. I would be wary of suggesting that you actually do that at any scale, because I think they're pretty expensive, and I imagine it would burn through the credits in the AWS pool, as it were. So that might be a bit upsetting for people.
Yeah. For the Red Hat, they are currently using the IBM cloud to the bare metal instance in the IBM cloud. However, we want to have some guidance on like who should we talk to for these fundings or credit fundings, or whether it's even feasible for us to ask for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely feasible. I think we went through the process of asking the CNCF for funding for one of the Ali clouds. I think Alibaba Cloud, perhaps. So it is possible to do these things. I think the core thing that you need to, the core data point that they will want is how much is it going to cost. So like how, or like, you know, what is the sort of, if it was on AWS, what would the spend be? Or if it was on IBM Cloud, what would the spend be? And then I guess the other question I would ask is like, if you didn't have, if you were just using the whatever you can get on a normal instance, you know, like very low performance type or much lower performance, but potentially smaller instances, how, like, is that doable? How much would it cost? Would it be more expensive? Would it be less expensive type thing? But I think, you know, if you're only talking about running a couple of tests, like a couple of tests an hour or a couple of tests a day, it might be that the money just doesn't matter that much, as long as we're not, you know, as long as we're paying by the minute or by the second. Although it's expensive, it doesn't, expensive by the hour, it doesn't actually add up to that much type thing.
Right. I think we can probably get some of those like reference data points from the KubeVirt community. Like this morning we were discussing like probably like a 10 PRs a week kind of rate, and not like not trigger the CIs automatically for every PR change. That we need like maintainers to really kick off the PRs to save some money cost. From my understanding, like for the KubeVirt, they really maintain 3 dedicated bare metal instance for they keep three bare metal instance, and I don't know, like maybe it's if not using like a separate AWS instance, maybe we can just like how should I say, like give there some of the credits, like to share their infrastructure, because I don't think that they can run in full capacity for their 3 bare metal nodes. Buying more bare metal nodes is kind of like wasted. And also from the engineering point, like we also need effort to maintain how to manage the 3 bare metal instances. This is like out of the scope of the projects, right? So that will dilute our focus. Yeah. That's something that we want to bring up for the class API provider KubeVirt, or maybe we should like have more discussion in tomorrow's class API specific meetings, I guess. Alex.
If I may chime in, I think that for the infrastructure question, maybe the SIG Lifecycle is not the proper venue.
Okay.
I think that because basically we don't manage the founding, and we don't know in details how this works. So I remember seeing some request founding, but for individual contributor, if I don't remember well, in Kubernetes org. But I have to search for the issue. And basically people goes there, ask founding for special needs. They have to provide justification, a rough estimation of the budget that they require, and then the discussion starts. But maybe in this case, it will be better to ask in country backs, or to ask in test infra. So to find out basically the right person to talk with. I will search for the. Otherwise, we can ask, for instance, to teams or people that are everywhere in the project, and he will probably give us the right pointer. So I take an action item to ask to teams if we can figure it out, the right person for ask to this finding. But yeah, if there is a precedent that is the provider, maybe this should be the right way to follow. With regards to the meeting, the procedure is not so simple, because there is a basically there is a SIG calendar that few people have right access to write. I'm on one of those people, so you have to figure it out when you want this meeting. and then ping me, and I will set up the recurrent meeting both in Zoom and in and on the calendar, also the Kubernetes calendar.
Okay. Cool.
I'll just mention, like, it's not ideal, but if we can make it fit into like the AWS account, right, then we sort of skip a lot of this. Like, we just need to like make sure that the money is the cost is acceptable, right? Because we do have an AWS test account. AWS puts credits in there. We just need to make sure they'd be willing to like pony up a couple more if the need arose. So if and we have like, you know, scripts to manage those accounts and clean them up, and should anyone leak instances, which I'm sure no one in this room has ever done, but should anyone leak instances, they will eventually be cleaned up, and, you know, they don't just run away forever. So if we can say use a bare metal instance on AWS, or if there is comparable infrastructure existing for IBM Cloud, then, you know, the ability to, if you were at a script that could, you know, spin up one or however many instances, bare metal instances you need, install the stuff, do all that, then we could basically just run that from Prow more or less with what we have today, and we just need to make sure that the cost is okay. So that's why I keep going back to the, like, can you just use one of the existing test account type things?
Yeah, that's a very valid point.
Okay, so it seems that we have a plan. First of all, we need a rough estimation of what is the need. Then we have to figure it out what option is the best one. Use a AWS account, use the IBM account, or ask to SIGs for alternatives.
Yep.
Okay. Justin, COPS sub-project upgrade.
Yes, so there's actually a ton happening in KOps, but I think the thing that I thought was most interesting is we seem to be actually making good progress on getting IPv6 actually working on a cloud, on AWS. There are a large number of what I would call paper cut type things in the ecosystem, where we're finding that, you know, like the cloud provider AWS doesn't really support IPv6 for the nodes in some small way, and, you know, Cilium gets confused by IPv6 in some small way, or whatever it is, and the DNS controller gets confused. But essentially, broadly, it is more or less working, and there's some excellent work by KOps contributors that are like addressing those small shortcomings. And so it looks like we will, I don't know, like actually have IPv6 only clusters passing some tests relatively soon, I hope. So I thought that was an exciting update to share, that it is actually, IPv6 is actually more real and more testable, even on clouds that historically have not supported it. I have not yet tried on GCP, but GCP also launched comparable like early IPv6 support. So once we get working on AWS, maybe I will try to get it working on GCP as well.
Thank you. Looks awesome, IPv6 on AWS. So if there are no questions, I can give a super quick update on Cluster API. So on Cluster API, we are trying to close up the first block of things on cluster class, patch merged, rebase merged. We are doing implementing a lot of validation. Condition is being implemented, events. So the work is getting, let me say, to first completion, first milestone state, and we are looking forward for people to test it, break it, provide feedback. If there are no questions, someone else wants to give a sub-project upgrade? Some last minute topics that we want to discuss? seems not. So I think that we can call it the end of the meeting and have some time back. So thank you, everyone, and see you next week. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.